Have you ever been ignored by someone you care deeply about, only to see them suddenly come back into your life when you least expected it? Maybe they stopped replying to your messages. Maybe they disappeared without giving you any explanation. Maybe they acted like you never existed. And yet, months later, or even years later, there they were again, sending a message, liking your posts, watching your stories, or trying to reconnect. Why does this happen? Why do some people walk away and then return? And more importantly, what does psychotherapy say about it? The answer is far more interesting than most people realize. Because when someone comes back after ignoring you, it is rarely random. There is usually something happening beneath the surface, something psychological, emotional, and deeply human. Today we're exploring 7 powerful psychotherapy insights that explain why someone may come back into your life after ignoring you, and make sure you stay until the end, because the final insight is the one that surprises most people. Before we begin, if you enjoy psychology, emotional healing, relationship insights, and human behavior, subscribe to Psychotherapy and turn on notifications. Also, tell me in the comments, has someone ever come back into your life after completely ignoring you? Let's begin. Imagine a woman named Emma. Emma met someone who seemed perfect for her. The conversations felt effortless. The connection felt genuine. Everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. Then suddenly things changed. Messages became shorter. Calls became less frequent. The warmth disappeared. And eventually, so did he. No explanation, no closure, no goodbye, just silence. For months, Emma wondered what happened. She replayed every conversation. She analyzed every text. She questioned herself. She wondered if she had done something wrong. But eventually, she stopped searching for answers. She focused on herself. She worked on her career. She spent time with friends. She learned to enjoy her own company. And just when she had finally found peace, he came back. This story is surprisingly common, and the first psychotherapy insight explains why. The first reason someone comes back after ignoring you is emotional avoidance. Many people assume that if someone leaves, it means they never cared. But psychotherapy shows that this is not always true. Some people struggle with emotional intimacy. When feelings become serious, they become uncomfortable. Instead of communicating their fears, they withdraw. Instead of discussing their emotions, they disappear. To them, distance feels safer than vulnerability. When a relationship starts requiring honesty, commitment, and emotional responsibility, they feel overwhelmed. So they run, not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to handle what they feel. Months later, after the emotional intensity has faded, they begin reflecting. They start thinking about the connection they left behind. They wonder what could have happened if they had stayed. And that's often when they return. The second psychotherapy insight is unfinished emotional business. Human beings dislike incomplete stories. Think about a movie that ends without showing what happens to the characters. You keep thinking about it. You want answers. You want closure. Relationships work in a similar way. When someone leaves without resolving their emotions, part of their mind remains attached to the experience. The relationship may be over physically, but psychologically it remains unfinished. This is why people sometimes think about someone years after the relationship ended. Their mind is still trying to complete the emotional story. Over time, curiosity grows. Questions appear. Regret develops. And eventually, they feel compelled to reconnect. Not necessarily because they want a relationship, but because their mind never fully let go. The third psychotherapy insight is personal growth. People change, sometimes dramatically. The person who ignored you 2 years ago may not be the same person today. Life teaches lessons. Heartbreak teaches lessons. Failure teaches lessons. Loss teaches lessons. As people mature emotionally, they often gain a new perspective on past relationships. They begin recognizing mistakes they couldn't see before. They realize they walked away from people who genuinely cared about them. They understand things they once ignored. And when that awareness arrives, many feel a strong desire to reconnect. But here's something important. Growth is meaningful. Yet growth alone does not automatically rebuild trust. Someone can genuinely change. But trust still requires consistency. Trust is earned through actions, not promises, not words, not apologies. Actions. And that distinction matters. The fourth psychotherapy insight involves your own transformation. This reason surprises many people. Sometimes people come back because they notice you've changed. Have you ever noticed how some people become interested. The moment you stop chasing them, there is a psychological explanation for this. When someone sees you constantly seeking their attention, they may unconsciously feel pressure. But when you stop chasing, when you stop waiting, when you focus on your own life, something changes. You become more confident, more independent, more emotionally grounded. And confidence is attractive, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're no longer depending on someone else's approval. Ironically, this is often when people who ignored you start paying attention again. Suddenly, they notice your growth. They notice your happiness. They notice your confidence, and they become curious. They wonder what changed. They wonder if they made a mistake. And that curiosity can bring them back. Now let me ask you something. Would you ever give someone a second chance after they ignored you? Comment yes or no below. There are no right or wrong answers, but your answer might reveal something important about your boundaries. Now let's continue. The fifth psychotherapy insight involves comparison and regret. Human beings naturally compare experiences. When people leave relationships, they often believe they will find something better. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they discover that the connection they left behind was healthier than they realized. Sometimes they meet people who lack the kindness, loyalty, or understanding they once had. And that's when regret begins. Regret is one of the strongest emotional forces in psychology. It has the power to make people revisit decisions they thought were final. It has the power to make people question choices they once felt confident about. And in many cases, regret becomes the reason someone returns. But remember this, their regret does not erase your pain. Their realization does not erase their actions. People deserve understanding, but trust should still be earned. The sixth psychotherapy insight is loneliness. This is where things become complicated, because not everyone comes back for healthy reasons. Sometimes people return because they feel lonely. When life becomes difficult, people often seek comfort. They remember familiar faces, familiar conversations, familiar emotional support. And now we arrive at, and naturally they think about the people who once cared about them. But psychotherapy encourages us to ask an important question. Do they miss you? Or do they miss how you made them feel? Those are not the same thing. Someone who genuinely values you will respect your boundaries. They will take responsibility. They will demonstrate consistency. Someone who simply wants comfort may disappear again once their loneliness fades. This is why actions matter more than words, always. The seventh and most powerful psychotherapy insight. Sometimes people come back because they are trying to reconnect with a version of themselves they lost. Most people think they miss the other person, but often they also miss who they were during that period of life. Relationships shape identity. When we share experiences with someone, those experiences become part of our personal story. Years later, people sometimes look back and remember feeling happier, more hopeful, more confident, or more emotionally connected, and they associate those feelings with a particular person. In reality, they may be searching for a lost part of themselves, a forgotten chapter, a version of who they used to be. This is why some people feel an overwhelming urge to reconnect even when they know the relationship wasn't perfect. They're not only seeking the other person, they're seeking a piece of themselves, and that realization changes everything, because it reminds us that human behavior is often more complex than it appears. Now here's the most important lesson in this entire video. When someone comes back after ignoring you, don't immediately ask, why are they back? Ask a different question. Ask, who are they now? Have they changed? Have they grown? Have they taken responsibility? Have their actions become consistent? And perhaps even more importantly, who are you now? Have you grown? Have you healed? Have you learned your worth? Because the real goal isn't getting someone back. The real goal is protecting your peace. The real goal is building relationships that are healthy, respectful, and emotionally mature. Sometimes the healthiest choice is giving someone another chance. Sometimes the healthiest choice is moving forward without them. Only you can decide. But whatever decision you make sure it comes from self-respect rather than fear. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And tell me in the comments, what do you think is the biggest reason people come back after ignoring someone? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to Psychotherapy for more videos about psychology, emotional healing, relationships, and personal growth. And remember, the people who leave may return, but your self-worth should never leave with them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.